What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my first impressions of Miasma Chronicles, a new TRPG from developer The Bearded Ladies, who also are behind the title Mutant Year Zero, which is a game in the exact same vein as this one. However, as a broad statement of first impressions, Miasma Chronicles is a game that takes everything that was present in Mutant Year Zero and expands upon it and polishes it up, which has been frankly pretty nice to see. Though, here at the beginning of the video, I do need to tell you that the developer reached out and gave me a review key for this, but it was just before the game launched, so I didn't really have a chance to actually make a review for it. But it is important that I mention I was given a copy of this game from the developer. That said, Miasma Chronicles takes place in a post-apocalyptic America. But this being a post-apocalypse, obviously things did not go well. The entire world was in a period known as the Great Stability before all of this happened, and while the game's a little vague about the specifics, it seems like the world had basically achieved world peace and technological advancement to a magnificent degree. However, then came the miasma, which is this sort of black, almost liquid metal looking substance that seems to corrupt and destroy most everything it touches, including animals, people, etc. In the wake of this disaster, the First Family, as they're called, seems to rule over much of what is left of the American area, while being in possession of much of what is left of the incredibly high-tech things available. However, they've set up series of mining towns and things of that nature, which they provide with supplies, specifically to basically gather resources for the First Family, which is about as nice of an arrangement as it sounds. But our character is known as Elvis, with our robot companion Diggs, who is living in one such mining town known as Sedentary. Elvis is on a quest, so to speak, to find his lost mother, a woman who disappeared beyond a wall of miasma that blocks travel in the area some years ago, who left you with a sort of high-tech glove with the instructions of basically figure out how to get past the wall with this glove. And so that is what you spend your life doing. Outside of that, our character plays the role of a mechanic, which is a decent enough introduction. However, the game really kicks off when the town of Sedentary begins being attacked by giant mutated frogs who are essentially humanoids, and we have to jumpstart our plans a little bit. Now, I won't go into more detail on the story than that right now, but I did think it was interesting enough as a plot setup. But with this being a TRPG, the other big side of this is the combat, of course. Now, in some ways, this is very similar to Mutant Year Zero, and in other ways, it mixes it up. So right at the start of the game, probably one of the more important choices you'll make involves choosing the tactical difficulty. You can choose a version that uses simplified percentage chance rolls, making things reliably hit, or you can choose a more traditional, let's say, percentage-based system based on distance and cover. So already your experience is going to vary a little bit there, but I think it's nice they gave us the option. Beyond that, however, combat is a 2 action point system, with most attacks ending your round. However, you will get access to things that only take up 1 action point or potentially leave you with the ability to make other actions. We can have each character equipped with up to 2 weapons that we can swap between, which can have a variety of effects depending on what you have equipped. And then as we complete quests and participate in combat, we'll level up, which will give us skill points that we can spend on various abilities that are specific to each character for the most part. That will give them access to more active things, like our robot's ability to charge someone or an overwatch ability, etc. But where it gets interesting is a little ways into the game, our main character, Elvis, starts to get miasma powers, which are unlocked a little ways into the story, so I don't really want to talk about it too much, but essentially these are equipable spells of sorts that we have to use power actually to use, that is to say electrical power, which keeps us from spamming them. But these powers take the form of things like a tornado that can pull or whip enemies around the battlefield. We get a chain lightning one summons a certain type of enemy that will help you instead. There's another one that allows you to just take direct control of certain enemies. And I would say that's where a lot of the variation is probably going to come from, because while, at least so far in the game, roughly 10 hours into it already, I've picked up another companion, much of the combat otherwise is simply what you would expect from a TRPG. However, it is well done and pretty polished in that regard. However, the other part of the first impressions that I wanted to talk about was the game does have a variety of minor bugs that I've run into, things not being interactable when they should be. The playtime counter on your save files is way off. According to that, I've already put in 60 hours, and some other small things as well, but nothing too egregious, and it's been running pretty well for me otherwise without any major issues. Now, one thing I did want to talk about before we sort of wrap this video up is that Mutant Year Zero was a game that had, I would say, some pretty tight math behind a lot of the mechanics, and especially on the higher difficulties, I would say there was very much so a right way to do things, and as a result, the game kind of felt like it wasn't so much a tactical game as it was simply a puzzle game. And while there are elements of puzzle-like mechanics in almost every single TRPG that you're going to play, it was a little egregious in Mutant Year Zero. So as I go to review this one, I'm going to keep an eye on exactly how that feels, and so far, it seems like Miasma Chronicles does a much better job of that, with you being able to travel around more freely and choose to tackle various things when, along with just more freedom in how you approach individual things without it going sideways on you. However, much like Mutant Year Zero, and as you've probably seen on screen here, playing around with stealth and picking off enemies while they are away from other enemies is very much so a big part of this. If you run in guns blazing, you're likely to have a bad time anyway, and while they've definitely brought in more interesting approaches to combat, making an effort to go around and pick off various enemies is a big part of the gameplay. But without rambling on for too long and saving some things for the review, overall I'm pretty impressed with Miasma Chronicles so far. In many ways, it just feels like a more polished version of Mutant Year Zero, which isn't a bad thing. That was a pretty good game. And as I move to actually finish the review, I'll be evaluating, I think, whether or not it manages to live up to its $50 price tag, which is pretty steep for a game like this. They usually run around 30 or 40, but we shall see. That said, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're looking forward to the review, or you simply liked this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, but regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.